Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time to continue on with my football alphabet series where I go through players and clubs whose surnames/names, dependent on the particular video, begin with a particular letter. And today it is the second installment of the L segment to this series, and there's of course the best players whose surnames begin with the letter L. If you've missed any of the episodes thus far, there is a playlist link down in the description for you to check all of them out at your own pace. And whilst you're there, of course, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe if you have not done so already. And without any further ado, here is my Hall of Fame of the best players whose surnames begin with the letter L. Number 1. Michael Laudrup. Quite possibly Denmark's finest ever player, Michael Laudrup is perhaps more remembered for what he didn't take part in than his talents and skills on a football pitch, which is quite a shame because on his day he was a majestic and graceful attacking midfielder combining superb technique, vision, creativity and stealth-like movement to be described by Franz Beckenbauer as the best player of the 1990s and by Andres Iniesta as the greatest player of all time, although I presume he said that before Lionel Messi came along. Born in 1964, he impressed at KB and Brøndby as a teenager, and Juventus snapped him up in 1983, although they sent him to Lazio on loan for 2 seasons, as they already had the maximum of 2 foreign players in their ranks, Michel Platini and Zbigniew Boniek, both of whom just so happened to play in Laudrup's preferred position. However, in 1985, when Laudrup was relegated with the Rome outfit, Boniek was moved on and the Dane was put into the first team, although across the next 4 seasons he sparkled on occasion but failed to really set Serie A alight as had been expected of him, and only picked up 1 Serie A title in his next 4 years with the Old Lady, that being in his debut campaign for them in 1985-86. A move to Barcelona in 1989 to work under Johan Cruyff facilitated his development and progression from being a raw diamond to a fully fledged superstar, with his invention and close control given a new lease of life in the so-called dream team that Cruyff established. He played in the false 9 role, tearing defences apart and bagging plenty of goals to help Barcelona win 4 straight La Liga titles and the first European Cup in the club's history in 1992. Behind the scenes though, his relationship with Cruyff began to break down, and he was left out of the 1994 Champions League final loss to AC Milan, something which opposing manager Fabio Capello said meant that Milan had a much better chance of winning, and a few days after the final, he announced they would be moving to bitter rivals Real Madrid. Upon his return, his every touch was booed and criticised, but he helped Madrid beat his former employers, who were by now on a downward spiral, by 5 goals to 0, and he continued his great form there for 2 seasons before leaving for Vissel Kobe in Japan and retiring at Ajax in 1998. He didn't quite reach the same heights for the Denmark national team though, despite winning 104 caps and scoring 37 goals, and his time in the Denmark national team is best remembered for him refusing to go to the 1992 Euros, as he had fallen out with the team's manager, Richard Møller Nielsen, and believed Denmark's chances of winning to be absolutely non-existent. His brother Brian did go and, as you may know, helped Denmark to become perhaps the only team to have not qualified for a particular tournament to then go on and win it. I'm sure Michael must have been kicking himself quite a lot. After retiring, he began a managerial career that has seen him managed in Spain, Russia and England/Wales with Swansea, with whom he won a League Cup in 2013, although he is currently unemployed. Number 2. Robert Lewandowski. The only active player in this selection, Robert Lewandowski somehow seems to be getting better and better, despite the fact that he will turn 33 on the day that this video is uploaded, with his best goal scoring seasons having been his previous 2 campaigns. Born in 1988, Lewa made his debut for Delta Wrocław in 2005, and after moving to Śląsk Płock, he top scored in both the Polish 3rd and 2nd tiers in consecutive seasons, earning a transfer to Lech Poznan. After 2 more prolific seasons there, he was on the verge of signing for Blackburn Rovers, but the Eyjafjallajökull volcanic eruption, as well as a few other financial issues, meant that the move ultimately fell through, and he transferred to Borussia Dortmund instead. In February 2013, he stated that he wouldn't be renewing his contract at the Signal Iduna Park, and after announcing himself on the European stage with 4 goals in a single game against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-finals, Bayern Munich swooped in and secured his signature for absolutely nothing, which must be one of the greatest transfers of all time. He joined Bayern for the start of the 2014-15 campaign, and although he had a drop-off in goals by his standards with just 17 in the league and 25 in all competitions, from 2015 onwards his form has been nothing short of remarkable. He hit a world record 5 goals in 9 minutes in a match against Wolfsburg in September 2015, has won the Bundesliga's top scorer award in 5 of the last 6 seasons, and in both 2019-20 and 2020-21 he averaged better than a goal a game, scoring 55 in the former, including 15 in the Champions League alone, and 48 in the latter, including 41 in the league, breaking the late Gerd Muller's long-standing league record in the process. An amazing all-round striker who is dominant in the air, capable of scoring all types of goals, and a master of finding half a yard of space, Lewandowski has won too many individual awards to name, although the big one, the Ballon d'Or, still eludes him, although I'm certain that, had it not been cancelled last year, he would have won. He hasn't quite worked wonders for Poland yet, only getting out to the group stages of the major international tournament once, that being at Euro 2016, but he is, perhaps unsurprisingly, his nation's all-time record goalscorer, appearance maker, and, quite probably, greatest player of all time. Number 3. Philipp Lahm. One of my personal favourite footballers of all time, Philipp Lahm was one of the most versatile and consistent players to have ever lived, capable of filling in at either full-back role or in defensive midfield, and his primary attributes of his stamina, innate sense of timing in the tackle, and leadership qualities made him be admired by all. Born in 1983, Lahm joined Bayern Munich's youth ranks as an 11-year-old, making his debut for the club in 2002. Although with Vicente Lizarazu and Willy Sagnol to get past, he was sent out on loan to Stuttgart for 2 seasons to aid his development and to get more first-team opportunities. However, 2 long-term injuries that he suffered in 2005 ended his time there prematurely, but when he returned to full fitness back at the Allianz Arena, he immediately gained a starting berth, something which he would almost never relinquish over the next 12 years. Never the quickest but always the most dependable and switched on, his first few years in the Bayern team were marred by off-field troubles, including criticising the club's transfer policy and being fined €25,000 in the process, the heftiest fine in the club history at that point, and by the club's lofty standards, he didn't really win much until 2012, by which point he had been made captain. After losing in the Champions League final to Chelsea that very year, Bayern began their era of Bundesliga dominance, with Lahm at the heart of it, as he lifted the next 5 Meisterschales as well as the 2013 Champions League trophy, when they beat Lewandowski's Dortmund side in the final. Upon Pep Guardiola's arrival, Lahm transitioned perfectly into defensive midfield, with the Spaniard calling him the most intelligent footballer he'd ever worked with, and despite maintaining his high levels for the next 4 seasons, he announced that he would be retiring from football at the end of the 2016-17 season, aged just 33, but he bowed out at the very top with yet another Bundesliga title, his 8th in all. A charitable person who has been very vocal about greater inclusivity in football for LGBTQ+ people, Lahm won football's greatest honour, the World Cup, with Germany in 2014, also as captain, but he'll always be remembered by me, at least, as the man who scored the first goal of the 2006 World Cup with a thunderbolt into the top corner against Costa Rica, one of just 27 he would score in his entire career. Number 4. Niels Liedholm. The second member of the Grenoli Trident after Gunnar Nordal for the end video to be featured in this series, Niels Liedholm was primarily a creative attacking midfielder whose close control, technique and passing range was so good that legend has it that it took him 2 years to misplace a pass for AC Milan, and when he did, it received a round of applause, such was its rarity. Born in 1922, Liedholm began his career at Valdemarsviks IF and IK Sleipner before his big break, much like with Nordal, came at AFK Norrköping, for whom he won 2 Swedish league titles, and he also picked up an Olympic gold medal for Sweden at the 1948 Games in London. However, his move to AC Milan in 1949 meant that, given Sweden's strict amateur-only policy for their national team, he didn't win another cap until that law was lifted in time for the 1958 World Cup, which they hosted, where he guided them to the final, although they would lose 5-2 to a Pelé-inspired Brazil. Liedholm helped Milan establish themselves at the top of Italian football, picking up 4 Serie A titles during the 1950s, although he wouldn't win a European Cup, coming the closest in 1958 when they lost to Real Madrid in the final, as seemingly did everyone else in the European Cup in the 1950s. He was also an extremely accomplished all-round sportsman who scheduled training sessions for sports like 100-meter sprints, javelin throw, high jump and shot put alongside his football training routines, and his obsession for keeping himself fit perhaps allowed him to keep on playing at AC Milan until he was nearly 39, bowing out in 1961 as a Rossoneri legend with 89 goals in 394 games and probably many more assists than that. He then embarked on a managerial career with various clubs across Italy, including managing Milan 3 times and Roma on 4 separate occasions, and he reached the European Cup final with the Roma in 1984, although they would lose to Liverpool, and a European trophy of any kind, barring Latin Cups with Milan, would forever elude the man who was voted by Sweden's biggest newspaper, Aftonbladet, as the best Swedish player of the millennium, ahead of Gunnar Gren and Nordal. Number 5. Tommy Lawton. You could claim that I have been slightly biased towards forward players, and more specifically strikers, in this series thus far, and that subjectivity continues on into my final pick. Although considering Tommy Lawton was regarded by Sir Stanley Matthews as England's greatest ever centre forward, perhaps he should warrant a mention anyway. Born in 1919, Lawton's prodigious talents were recognised early on, and he joined Burnley at the age of just 14, who was so keen to sign him that they even offered his family a rent-free house near Turf Moor, Burnley Stadium. At 16, he made his first team debut, becoming the youngest ever player to play in the First Division in the process, and upon signing professional terms in 1936, he scored within a minute of his professional debut. Everton was suitably impressed and signed him as a long-term replacement for their legendary talisman and Lawton's idol, Dixie Dean, for £6,500 in 1937, which was a record for a teenager, and he didn't disappoint, scoring 74 goals in 98 games for the Toffees, including 38 in the final pre-war season of 1938-39, in which Everton won the First Division title. However, much like with other players of that time, the war put Lawton's career very much on hold, and Everton's website states that Lawton may well have overtaken, or at the very least rivaled, Dean's tally of 383 goals for the club had it not been for the conflict, in which he formed a part of the Royal Army Training Corps and played for a handful of teams in guest appearances during the wartime football leagues. When the war was over, Lawton wanted to move further south to see more of his wife, whom he would later divorce after catching her cheating on him, and he moved to Chelsea for £14,000, picking up where he left off by scoring 35 goals in 53 games. A deadly striker in the air who possessed an extraordinary leap as well as quickness off the mark and power when striking with either foot, Lawton was described by many as the greatest of his generation, but surprisingly, in 1947 he dropped down to the 3rd Division South to join Notts County, who were spending big in an attempt to put themselves back in the top flight and who had offered him a job post-retirement. Sadly, the move virtually put an end to Lawton's England career, despite having scored 22 goals in 23 games for the Three Lions, and it took 3 seasons for County to even return to the 2nd Division, with Lawton firing the goals to finally get them promoted, although after 2 subpar seasons in the 2nd Division, Lawton was moved on to Brentford, where he put up average numbers once more. His final flourish came at Arsenal in the 1st Division with 15 goals in 38 games, before retiring midway through the 1955-56 campaign to move into coaching. With that 1st Division title he won back in 1939, the only trophy he ever won during his playing days. A truly dismal trophy cabinet, but such a talented player. And that just about wraps up today's video looking at the best players whose names begin with L. If you think I missed any out, let me know which ones down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, of course, as at the start, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And you can ring the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a video straight away. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.